All right, in the third reading, Yaakov leaves the spot where he wrestled with the angel. And we talk about the Gid Hanasha. And then Yaakov and Asaph have their fateful encounter. Chapter 33 begins with the words, Vayisa Yaakov Enov. Jacob raises his eyes. Vayar, and he sees Vehine Asaph. He sees Asaph. Asaph, his boy, is coming. Ve'imaya with him. Arba me'es ish. 400 men. Armed to the teeth. These are ISIS monsters. Vayachatz asayeladim. He divides the children. Al-Leah. Al-Rachel. Ashtei Ashfachas. He divides his family. And then after he does that, Vayasim es Ashfachas is Filadei and Rishonim sets up his family. He has the maidservants and their children. Leah v'Yeladeha achareinim. Behind them is Leah and her children. And then there's Rachel, there's Yosef, achareinim. They're right away, all the way in the back. Rashi tells us, acharein chaviv. There was a reason he did this. He cherished Rachel and Yosef most. But at that point, Yaakov Avinu moves forward. Verse 3, V'hu over lifneim. Yaakov goes before them. Vayishtachu arza sheva pamim. And he bows low 7 times. Ad gishtoi ad achiv. Until he reaches his brother. Rashi tells us, over lifneim. Why do we emphasize that Yaakov goes before them? Why don't we emphasize that Yaakov goes and encounters Asaph? So Rashi says, Omar, Yaakov said to himself, Im yaveh esir asher lehilochem, if there's going to be some kind of battle, if he's going to lock horns, so then let it be yilochem bitchila. First he'll have to take me down. I am not a timid Jew with trembling knees, says Yaakov. If he wants to fight, he'll fight with me first. I'm the first target. I am the first line of defense. So what happens? Well, Asaph sees his brother bowing and showing him all this deference, and he's moved, he's stirred. An incredible thing takes place. Here we are, people armed to the teeth, coming with baleful intent. There's no doubts, they didn't even come take any prisoners. Yaakov is ready to lock horns, and he's ready to battle, and Asaph runs towards him. Now Yoratz Asaph, if this was a movie now, they put in the dramatic music. Asaph is running. What's Asaph going to do? A shocking scene unfolds. Shocking to his people, shocking to Yaakov and Yaakov's family. He hugs him, he grabs him, he hugs him. Vayipol al tzavarav, he falls on his neck. Vayishakeu, and he kisses him. Vayivku, and he cries. Wow, this is like an amazingly dramatic moment. He didn't come and kill him. Instead, he ran towards him, and he gave this unique and remarkable display of affection. Why does he run? Vayoretz Asaph. So Rashi doesn't seem bothered by this running. I guess you could see this is a very intense moment. So running was this. You weren't going to walk slowly towards this. As the Rebbe once said, nobody walks for an election; they run for it. But the Sefarno asks the question: so why did he run for? So the Sefarno says you should know the running already was not aggressive. He already ran with a sense of reconciliation. When he saw Yaakov prostrating himself, and Rashi says something similar later on also, he saw all this humility, and Yaakov showing him so much deference, showing him so much honor, and he was stirred. He felt bad for him actually, and all of a sudden this brotherly love took hold of him, and his heart was humbled. And therefore he ran towards him affectionately. The Sefarno does say that, but I have to tell you, there are sages take a very dim view of this kiss. They're not that impressed with it. For example, the Targum Yenusim Ben Uzziel says his heart didn't change. He's the same Asaph. He came with baleful intent, and he's still the same person. So what do you mean? It doesn't say that. So the Targum Yenusim says he wanted to bite him. He ran violently, went to attack him. He's a monster, this guy. He would bite his victim. He would bite him in the neck.
His neck turned into...
And Yaakov's neck turns into marble. 2 people in history, their neck turns into marble. Yaakov and Asaph tries to bite his neck off, bite off his jugular. And Moshe Rabbeinu, when the executioner's sword comes down on his neck, The neck turns to marble and bounces back. The sword bounces back on the executioner. So the Targum Yenis says he wanted to bite him, and he bit him with great force, but the guy's neck all of a sudden turned hard like a rock. So Asaph's teeth fell out, and that's why he was crying. He needed a good dentist. He had pain in his teeth. Anybody who ever suffered with teeth knows how painful teeth could be. The little things in your mouth, but when they're not working and you're in pain, it's not good. The Pirkei Rebbe Lezer goes even further. He says, don't read the words Vayishakehu. It says Vayishakehu. That's what it looked like to everybody on the surface. Take the kuf and turn it into a chaf. And really it should say Vayishakehu. And he bit him. He tried very hard to bite him. He couldn't work for him. And that's why the Pirkei Rebbe Lezer says, that's why there's little dots on the word Vayishakehu, because dots on a word are a sign that we should de-emphasize. In a long conversation that I once was privileged to have with the lead scholar of the Dead Sea Scrolls, so he told me something very interesting. He said, this business of putting dots on top of a word, Lawrence Schiffman said, is not unique to the Torah. He said, in all apocryphal writings is the same thing. When people would edit a document in antiquity, if they wanted to de-emphasize a word, they would put dots on it. That was the methodology. It would be the equivalent, I suppose, today of parentheses. So there was no room to draw parentheses. Today, no, not a highlighter. A highlighter means to emphasize, to de-emphasize. So the dots would de-emphasize. In other words, don't take this word too seriously. So the Pirkei Rebbe Lezer says, don't take the kiss too seriously. In fact, it was a bite. We have an issue here, and the issue is that ultimately it says Vayishakehu. You could read whatever you want, midrashically, but on a literal level, it says he kissed him. How do we reconcile that? How do we understand that? So the Rabbeinu Bechaya simply says, it was not a wholehearted kiss. He kissed him, but I don't get too impressed with it. It was a formality kiss. In the moment, he says, they don't know what else to do. Two brothers are meeting after 21 years. Okay, so he kissed him. But it's not something that you should read into. Let's take a look and see what Rashi says. Rashi says, why was he hugging him? Forget the kiss. Rashi's bothered by the hug. Says Rashi, Nizgalgalu Rachamov, Esav's mercy, his compassion was stirred. When he saw Yaakov Avinu bowing low successively 7 times, he felt bad. It's my brother, my twin brother. He's bowing before me like a servant. Something stirred inside of him. And as such he hugged him. Okay, fine, he hugged him. But kissed him? What's with a kiss? Isn't that a little over the top? So Rashi says, in the Chumash, meaning in the Sefer Torah, Nakodalav, the word Vayishakehu is written with little dots on top. So what does this mean? The emphasis. Rashi says, V'yesh chelkem medav razeh. There is a dispute about this that's recorded in the Braisa of the Sifri, which actually is found in Parshat Vayishlach, because Mechilta is the Medrash Halak of the first Sefer of the Torah and the second Sefer. The Sifri is found on Chumash Bereishis, and Chumash Bamidbar, and Chumash Dvarim. So in Parshas Vayishlach, in the Sifri, it says like this: Yesh Dershin Nekuda Zu. There are those who expound these dots. Loimar, to say, Shalei Neshaka B'chol Libei. He didn't kiss him wholeheartedly. He kissed him, but don't get too excited. The kiss of an Anti Semite, the kiss of an Islamo-fascist, of a Nazi. He's a murderer. He's a thug. He'd kill babies with impunity and then sing and dance about it. He's a monster. So in that case, why does it say he kissed him? What's the nekuda? So they said, the white supremacist didn't kiss you wholeheartedly. Whatever, he kissed you. It was a momentary thing. It wasn't that impressive. It was only superficial. And this is the way the Rabbeinu Bechaya takes it. This would follow the opinion of maybe a little bit of a dialed down opinion on the Targum Yonison and the Pirkei Rebbe Lezer. We don't have to say in Pshuta Shal Mikra, we don't see the word V'yishacheu. It doesn't say that anywhere that he actually kissed him. It just doesn't come up in the words. It's totally midrashic. But still, the kiss, don't get too excited about it. Rashi says V'chabkeu, the hug, the hug was a hug. But the kiss, it's a Nishkin kiss, as they say. The kiss, not such a kiss. However, Rashi says there's a dispute about this. The Sifri records another opinion. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said, no. It says he kissed him, and he kissed him. It is what it is. What it says is so. Halacha hi biyadua. You should know that there's a rule. A halacha. And halachas are immutable. Esav seine liyankiv. Esav hates Jacob. Hates him. That's the way it is. Anti-Semitism is a matter of fact. So in that case, why did he kiss him? Ella, the thing is this. Nichmeru rachamav. As we already said earlier, his mercies, his compassion was stirred by Yisrael at that moment. So much so that he was motivated not only to hug him, but he became overwhelmed with emotion at that moment. And he kissed him wholeheartedly. Now, very interestingly, Rashi does not talk about the weeping or the crying. Doesn't talk about it. That's not so hard to understand. That this was an emotional moment. Everybody understands that this is going to be an emotional moment. If Asaph was planning to kill Yaakov and decided not to kill him, he's going to be emotional about it. It was very intense. The question is not about the intensity. And tears come out of intensity. When there's a very intense emotion, which is too much for a person to suffer, it pushes, so to speak, for release. And that release comes in the form of tears. The question, though, is why did he kiss him? Why did he display affection? People cry for many reasons. But the Mefarshim do talk about this crying. So the Targum Yonasan, as well as the Targum Yerushalmi, both say very clearly, Asaph was crying because he broke his teeth. That's it, straight up. As we said, try to bite him, next turned into marble, he was in pain, he was crying, don't get excited. Others maintain it's not necessarily exactly so. I mean, how do you explain it according to Rashi? Or Rabbi Bechaya, who says that he did kiss him. The question is if he kissed him wholeheartedly or not wholeheartedly. Can't get away. The literal meaning, it says he kissed him. So if he kissed him, why was he crying? If it was a wholehearted kiss, nope, makes sense. It was wholehearted. But if it was only a formality, he didn't really mean it, so why did he cry too? Tears, after all, are real. So what was he crying for? What's the bechiyah? So the Chaim suggests that Asaph initially advanced against Yaakov with tremendous hatred, tremendous anger. And then he just kind of lost his steam. He was planning to kill him. He began his move towards Yaakov with the intent to kill. And by the time he got there, somehow that hate dissipated. So he cried. He was bewildered himself. He didn't understand what he was doing. He was overwhelmed with these conflicting emotions. Here, he hates him. It's his brother. So he cried. Which this is probably the approach of Rashi. So then, why did Yaakov cry? Was Yaakov didn't know this? He didn't know that Asaph began his move towards him with the intent to kill, and he's bowing to him. What was Yaakov crying for? So the Chaim says, Yaakov Yadas Emes. He knew the truth. He knew the truth. He knew this kiss isn't wholehearted, or if it is wholehearted, it's a temporary thing. He knew there was no great achva, there was no real brotherhood over here. They were not going to become best friends. They were never going to be united again as a family. So what did he cry for? Yaakov was the midah of emet. Yaakov was truth. And to be in a situation where we had to play this charade, we had to make believe we're brothers and we're getting together and we have this emotion and we're hugging and we're kissing, it bothered Yaakov. It irked him to the point that he wept about it. It was so out of character for him. It was so outside the parameters, the orbit of comfort of what Yaakov was a straight person. Everything was ish tam, he's the emes. Yaakov midas emes. And Yaakov had to be the man of honesty. Is now playing a charade, and he's engaged in this whole love fest all of a sudden with Asaph, who he knows wants to kill him, and Yaakov knows it's fake. He didn't appreciate having to be in that situation.
It could also be that his family was around him, and he saw that he kind of backed off here. Yaakov's family.
All kinds of things could be. I'm telling you what it says. No. This is what the Erev Chaim says.
Any comment on the 7 bows and how this?
There's a lot on the 7 bows.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not talking about the bows today.
Okay.
The different day we're going to take a bow. We're talking about the kiss.
Okay, but
there's a lot about the bows.
It impacts on.
There's a lot about the bows. It impacts the Asaph reaction. That's as far as we learned it today. Yeah. The bows impact on Asaph reaction. But the truth is, there's another whole perspective on this. That Yaakov's bowing was inappropriate actually, and as a result of this display of weakness, he brought forth something negative in the future. It wasn't so good at Yaakov. In other words, you have to humble yourself before the Anti Semite, but not that humble. The excessive bowing in the end was not necessarily a good thing. On a level of Pshuta Shel Mikra, it was effective. Like if you have to avoid murder, you have to avoid a situation. If it takes a little humility to swallow your pride and eat a little humble bread, and that helps you, that you don't have to be killed or you don't have to kill, it's probably worth it. So on a level of Pshuta Shel Mikra, we don't, but there is a Midrashic teaching behind it. So let's delve into this kiss a little bit. The truth is that Rashi, on some level, does not seem to make that much sense. And I'll tell you why. What compelled Rashi to bring 2 opinions? In Pshuta Shel Mikra, there's a kiss. It doesn't say V'yishacheyu. It says V'yishakeyu. Okay? But it says there's dots on top of it. So you can't, okay. So Rashi should have just said, Nakad olav. Why Nakad? Shaloi neshake b'chal libay. That's all. Shaloi neshake b'chal libay. Yes, he kissed him. Don't get too excited. Don't get overwhelmed with the kiss from an anti-Semite. Instead, Rashi says, Nakad olav. And he says, V'yesh chelke medavar. There's a dispute about this. There are those who say he did kiss. And wholeheartedly. And not wholeheartedly. And if Shimon Bar Yochai, he says there's a halacha that Asaph and Yaakov. However, nichmeru rachmav beis hashah. At that moment, his compassion was stirred. What do you get this whole story of the halacha biyadua? What's that relevant for? Why don't you just say, yesh shedarshu shalei neshake b'chol libei, yesh shedarshu neshake b'chol libei. Well, really, you could ask a better question. Why bring this all together? There are many opinions on many things, and Rashi does not bring the different opinions down as a rule. So this is the big question. Why does Rashi spend so much time on the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and explain, like bringing in other subjects even, like halacha biyadua? What does that halacha have to do with this event? This is not overarching commentary on the relationship of Yaakov and Asaph. This is not the time for a general overview. So the Rebbe says something amazing. The intention of Rashi in this seemingly unnecessary and lengthy explanation is Latarich Kushesh and Iskashba Mefarshim. There's a big question that the Mefarshim ask. And the question, which is found in the Maskil of David, Sefer Zikaron, and many others. Klalu, there's a rule. Kasha yeshnu nikud al ois, when there are dots over a word or a letter, an ois, a letter, or a milah b'Torah. Hakavana b'kachu l'ma'it mashma'usa. The intention here is to minimize its meaning. It is what it says, but not too much. Don't read into it. Don't take it at full face value. As they say in English, a few grains of salt. And as I told you, Lawrence Schiffman told me this is the case with all apocryphal writings. It's not only Chumash, it's not only Torah. All writings of antiquity. That was the methodology used. Ela, b'mila shaveh v'yishakeyu. When it comes to the word v'yishakeyu, mizbayir hadavar heitev l'fidei harishin. This makes good sense according to the first opinion. It says v'yishakeyu, it says he kissed him. And in fact, it was not a wholehearted kiss. The dots make perfect sense. Nakad olav. Why is it dotted? Not an impressive kiss. Don't get too excited. But if the dots come to minimize, that le'neshaka b'chol libay, then how would we understand the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? If he kissed him wholeheartedly, then why is there dots on the word? Should be no dots. In other words, the dots on the word they form a tremendous question here. So according to Pirkei Rebbe Lezer, on a Madrashic level, the dots are telling us that the word is saying something else. There's a problem with that. The problem is usually when the Torah is read one way, written another way, it says that inside. When there's a Kri and a Ksiv. There is no Kri and Ksiv. So Pirkei Rebbe Lezer is relying on a methodology called Al Tikri. Don't read it this way, read it that way. There has to be a reason for Al Tikri. In Pshuta Shel Mikra, if it wanted to say V'yishacheu, it should say V'yishacheu. So it says V'yishacheu means he kissed. Dots on the word de-emphasize the kiss. But according to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who says B'chol libei, the word is literal, then why the dots? Leave the dots off. And this is a big question. Because we have these two schools of thought, the dots make sense only according to one school of thought. It doesn't make sense according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. L'taretz kushazu, to answer this very question, Rashi prefaces with the words halachahi. It's a halacha. Biyadua, it's known she'esav seinu liyankiv. What's the relevance of that here? Okay, fine. So it's known that Esav seinu liyankiv. When Rashi will write his composition on anti-Semitism, he'll start off his composition with an opening line, Biyadua she'esav seinu liyankiv. This is commentary in the Chumash. Of what relevance is there if Asaph generally does or doesn't hate? Where the rule is anti-Semitism will always be there. What does that have to do with this commentary? So the Rebbe suggests, Kavanasi shel Rashi, the intention of Rashi here is l'kvoya, is to establish something. The rule is he hates him. That's the rule. The rule is he's an anti Semite, he hates Yaakov, he's going to hate the Jewish people. And a halacha, we know, halachas are not for sale. Halachas are immutable. If it's a halacha, it's a halacha. It doesn't change. Halacha is what we call muchletes. Halacha is the realm of the absolute. Absolute is halacha. Ein ba makom l'shinuyim. Doesn't change. Umiacha she'en makom l'shinuyim. If there's no room for change, because Esav seinu liyankiv, so then what happened here? If Esav hates Yaakov, what happened on this day? How come on this morning he's kissing him? That's not a sign of hate. That's a sign of affection. So why is there a sign of affection if he always hates him? The only answer must be something unusual happened. The halacha is, as a rule, he hates him. If he always hates him, why is he suddenly kissing him? The answer has to be that at that moment, at that moment, suddenly, his mercy was stirred. And therefore, if his mercy was stirred at that moment, why wouldn't he have kissed him wholeheartedly? If there's no mercy, there's no mercy, fine. But if he's feeling merciful, if he's feeling an emotion, so then the kiss would be a natural thing. It would be a real expression of a profound emotion. Nishar Esav b'mohusei seinu liyankiv. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says it doesn't mean he is a lover, he's a hater. He was a hater, he is a hater, he will be a hater. It's a halacha. Halachas don't change. Esav did not change. There was no intrinsic change here. So if there was no intrinsic change here, why did he kiss him? This fact that he kissed him was not because he changed, but because there was a momentary shift. He didn't change. He's still an anti-Semite. He still hates Yaakov. He could kill him tomorrow. Maybe he could kill him in a half hour. Right now he's feeling brotherly. Right now he's feeling love. In other words, it does not represent a paradigm shift. It represents a momentary lapse. A big difference. A big difference. An evil person can sometimes have a moment of weakness and do a kind thing. It doesn't make him a kind person.
And what indicates is the two dots?
There was more of this, the dots in every letter here. The dots say, don't think Vayishakeo, according to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, don't think the kiss means Asaph changed. He didn't even become mitigated. Asaph didn't even dial back really. He had a moment like momentary insanity. He had momentary love. It doesn't mean it changes. There's no change here. Because halacha, the momentary reality doesn't change anything. There are stories of monsters, of Nazis, who suddenly did a kindness for somebody, who saved a baby, who saved a person. And they themselves said, I don't even know why I'm doing this. It doesn't mean they became kind. It doesn't mean that they're a good person. It doesn't mean they're deserving of compassion. It's something happened. Something happened. There was a brief glimpse of humanity. But he's still the same inhuman. So therefore, if it's only a timely thing, then at that point it means there's no real change. See, according to the other opinions, he didn't kiss him wholeheartedly, so he didn't change. He changed a little bit. He dialed back a little bit. He was a hater he wanted to kill, so now he still hated him, but it wasn't as much. The hate was mitigated. So to mitigate hate actually could be a change. Whether you change the anti-Semite, I'm not sure. In fact, I'm sure you won't. But you can mitigate it. You can dial it back. He won't hate you as much. He'll be civil. And civility will at times necessitate a kiss. You'll get a kiss too. You'll be a fool to think that it represents love. Civility. Even a hater could be civil sometimes. So he's not an out-of-the-box hater. So all these anti-Semites who are coming out of from under the rocks now, what do you think, they weren't anti-Semites for the last 50 years? Of course they were. For whatever reason, they behaved civilly for 50 years. Now they're finished being civil. Now they're finished being nice. They never changed. That doesn't represent a real change. But the question is, this non-real change, how much of a non-real change was it? Was it something that for a while the anti-Semitism was mollified? Or was it something that was only for a moment? Just almost like a lightning bolt, like a brief shine, and then that's it. Umeata, move on. Now we understand. Gam das Rashbi, the opinion of Shimon Bar Yochai who says Vayishlach, and it's menukedes. It's dotted. Ki amnam be'isei rega neshika hoise b'chol libay. Yes, it was. It says Vayishlach, and it was Vayishlach. However, know that it does not represent a real change. Ultimately, the hate remains intact, unfortunately, and in place. And this is something we all have to know. On one hand, the anti-Semite might behave civil. Don't lower your guard. On the other hand, even if the anti-Semites have a moment of love, don't get too excited either, because it's a momentary thing. Either way, any which way you cut it, keep your guard up and know that the haters will remain haters. And as long as we remain vigilant, hopefully we can continue to successfully protect ourselves and our communities. And our prayer and our hope is that soon we'll come to a time where hate will disappear forever with the coming of Mashiach. V'mheira u'biyamenu. Amen.